Good morning. Alexa, what's the date?
Today is Saturday, March 7th.
Saturday, March 7th. And this is no parody, this is straight up Laura. I got up this morning and learned that a no good cook is about to desecrate one of our favorite meals, chili. And just in case anybody sees that, I'm going to show you how to make chili. Chili is wonderful. It's one of the first things I learned to make. You can have a bowl of chili, the leftovers, you chili nachos, chili on an omelet. It's always great to have chili in the refrigerator, and whenever I go out of town, I always make a batch of chili for Roy before I leave. The point of chili in our house, I never go out and buy ingredients to make chili. Chili is something that just happens. If I don't know what to make, if I'm lazy, if we're in the mood, I'll just come in and make a pot of chili using whatever I have. Now, my favorite is ground beef, but I've lived in Texas and they would never. I've made competition chili, I've been a judge in a chili cook-off, and they would always use some meat like this, some roast or steaks, and dice it. For competition chili, you dice this up. The reason I have that thought is Roy's going to smoke it today. It's a London broil. I'm going to use my ground beef. Onions. Yes, if I don't have an onion, I almost always have an onion, and today you can see I've got a half left from last night's dinner. I made liver and onions, and I have all the onions. I have the yellow onion. I found out since we have some Mexicans in the family by marriage, and they are wonderful cooks. My sister-in-law's mother, my brother's mother-in-law, taught me a lot of dishes, and she always uses a white onion. And I have the Rosa Mexicano cookbook, and she always uses a white onion. And here's, good old red onion. The point is, use whatever you have. And if you just sometimes I just have dehydrated diced onions. I keep those just in case, but I almost always have an onion around. Chilies. You need chilies. Today I have a jalapeno and 2 Anaheims. It's just what I have. I almost always have jalapenos around. I like Anaheim chilies in salads, and I throw them in things, so I had those in the refrigerator. Later on in the season, a lot of the year, I have peppers growing in my garden. Then you need some kind of tomato product. It can be anything. It can be diced tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, tomato sauce. I like to use a mixture. I do like the diced tomatoes, but I want to use this large can today of plum tomatoes, and I will whiz those a little bit in the blender, and tomato sauce. And sometimes I use tomato paste. Basically anything. Just go to your pantry and get some kind of tomato. Beans. Get some kind of beans. My favorite beans in chili are pinto, and I don't have any pinto. I keep canned beans around all the time. Love them. So today I have black beans, kidney beans, and cannellini beans. Competition chili, there's never any beans. And just in case, I have, depending on how it tastes, I use the box sodium-free beef bouillon. The seasonings for chili, I got them out. I keep these mixed together. I make my own mix. But just to show you, I will have them out, and you almost always have these on hand. Chili powder, of course. I've got these arranged in the order of importance. Cumin, love it. I probably use almost equal amounts of chili powder and cumin. Paprika, same thing. I'll use probably a equal amount. Oregano. I think chili needs oregano. I've used margarine in time if I found myself without oregano, but I almost always have it. And that's another thing. Later on, I'll have it in my garden. And red pepper, cayenne. I use that at the end to get it to the heat that we like, and I like it spicy. And today I'm going to use a little bit of this. I don't know what this is. This is something I got. See, it's made up of all these different vegetables. So I've been using it, but it does have sodium, so I use it sparingly. And then of course salt and pepper that I like to control. And I'm going to cook it in my cast iron thing. And boy, you all love my little tomato pot. I wish I could get another one. If I could get another one, I'd have a giveaway. So anyway, I'm going to chop everything and get started on this chili. Okay, I've been chopping the ground beef, and another thing when I say you can make it from nothing, if you only have frozen ground beef, I'm sure all of us have done that thing with the frozen beef and put it in the pan and scraped it off layer by layer. Turns out the inside of this package was frozen a little bit too. So I'm browning that all up. I'll show it to you. But now I'm going to add my onions. And this ground beef is so lean, there's no oil to pour off. As a matter of fact, I had to use a tiny bit of oil to get it started. So now I'm going to add my onions. Those onions were so big, I thought I was going to use 1.5, but there was one is so big, I may just use that. I may chop up the other half, we'll see. But I'm going to brown these with the ground beef. I'll show it to you. And I'm going to add some salt and pepper, but I'm not going to add any other spices or my peppers right now, and I'll show you why. I have a great frugal tip. Now you all know I'm a low sodium cook, and I don't use much. My friend Stacy from Real World AIP, who was a lifesaver when I was on the AIP diet, and oh well, I'll get into that another time, but that diet did so much for me, and then I was slowly able to, over 6 months, I was able to reintroduce a lot of things. But she uses, her rule of thumb is a teaspoon of salt for a pound of meat. This is actually 1 1/3 pound. These packages at Costco are oversized, and that comes in handy when I show you my little trick. So I'm just going to let that brown, and right now the only seasonings I'm going to use are salt and pepper. I usually use kosher salt, but I'm using this, I probably can't see it. I'm using this Himalayan pink salt, which was a gift. So I bet I probably added maybe a 1/4 teaspoon, maybe a little generous 1/4, but certainly less than a 1/2 teaspoon for this 1 1/3 pounds of meat, because I can adjust that later. I can always add some. I can't take it out. So I'm just going to use salt and pepper. But I'm going to go ahead and show you my trick. Whenever I make hamburger and onions, which is the base of so many things, when there's just the two of us here, I always take out a portion. Just browned hamburger, onions, a little bit of salt and pepper. I always take out a small portion, especially if it's just the two of us. When this cools down, I'll put it in a bag and freeze it. And that will be the basis for another meal. So many meals. I can pull this out and make a little spaghetti sauce. I can add the Asian seasonings to it and do lettuce wraps. And it doesn't matter that the onions are not cooked all the way. In fact, that's good. So I'll let this cool, and then I just put it in a little freezer bag and keep it in the freezer for, you can put it on a pizza. You can put it on nachos. I mean, there's just not anything that you can't do with some hamburger and onions. Okay, now I'm going to add my peppers and my spices. I have Anaheim and jalapeno. You can use bell pepper. I like any bell pepper other than green. I love the yellow, red, orange, all of them, but for some reason I don't like the green. So I'm going to put the peppers in there to cook. And now I'm going to put my spices because it's important to cook your spices before you add liquid. I just start out measuring in my hand. It's basically, I make it, I don't measure anything, I make it, then I taste it, then I adjust. I'm going to add like a palmful of chili powder. It's about a tablespoon. I'll add a little more. Cumin, I love cumin. I have a friend that hates cumin so much. She can tell, when she was here visiting, she opened my spice cabinet and said, I can tell there's cumin in here. Cumin is very polarizing, as is cilantro. Seems like a lot of people just really hate cilantro. Paprika, about the same amount, but I might just finish this off. I'll go with palmful, which I think is like a heaping tablespoon. Oregano, I use a little less. Start with a little less, like a teaspoon. I crunch it up. The red pepper I'm going to put a little now, but this is something I weighed on because you can't really tell how hot your peppers are. And then this complete seasoning. You don't need that, but if you have something around that you like, throw it in. Mrs. Dash, sometimes. Whatever you like. Oh, and I haven't added garlic. I'm going to show you my dirty little secret. I have fresh garlic a lot. I don't mind using granulated garlic if that's all I have. I'm sure you know who will use her dried spices, but I love this. I get it at Trader Joe's. You keep it frozen, and it's these little cubes, and each cube is a clove of garlic. You just pop it out. Let's see, I'll put in 2 cloves. I like this because, you know, it's early in the morning. I'm still drinking coffee. Just don't want to get garlic. Here's how we're going so far. We just have the ground beef, onions, peppers, and spices. I'm just letting those kind of brown. I'll scrape up the pan. I'll do that more when I add some liquid. But just letting those peppers brown a little bit and the spices brown before I add any liquid. At this point, you might want to put in a little liquid. Water is fine, just to start scraping up the stuff on the bottom. Water is fine. I have a little bit. I probably have maybe a half a cup of chicken broth left in this. So, yeah, I want to use it up. But like I said, water's fine. And then sometimes I'll use the bouillon. Just use that little bit of liquid, then all of the goodness from the pan releases. All of the spices that are down there, brown bits from the hamburger and onion. Do that, and then we'll add next our tomato products. Well, I thought I was going to have to use my blender, but I don't. I didn't read the label. These plum tomatoes, I thought they were whole plum tomatoes, but it turns out they're crushed, which is perfect. I love crushed tomatoes and diced tomatoes. And I may even still add some diced tomatoes. You just have to see how it looks. And then I'll add this can of tomato sauce. I added 3 cans of rinsed beans. Okay, I've got the fire off now. It's simmered for about 45 minutes. I tasted it, or shall I say I tasted of it, and I ended up adding some more of my chili spice. This is how I keep it, all the chili ones together. Another ingredient that is sometimes used in chili, particularly in competition chili, is beer. I think they use it to tenderize the beef, but I think cooked beer has a good flavor in chili. And I had half of a flat O'Doul's in the refrigerator, and I threw that in. I threw in 1 package of the beef bouillon, and see, a half a teaspoon of sugar. The tomatoes seemed particularly sharp. We won't eat this tonight. We're going out. And the good thing is chili is always better the second day anyway. We have a neighbor. I wish I could say who she is, but you know how those creeps are. But we have a neighbor who's a celebrity, an actress, and a singer, and she's having a concert tonight. We're going, and really looking forward to it. She's doing the music of Laurel Canyon, and if you didn't see, there's a wonderful documentary that you can get on Netflix or Apple TV or something. Don't pay for it. It's for sale in some sites, but you can find it free streaming. It's called Echo in the Canyon. It was made by Jacob Dylan, Bob Dylan's son, who was the singer of the Wallflowers, and he interviews a bunch of people at the time. David Crosby, wonderful. Late Tom Petty had a big part in it. Anyway, it was a wonderful documentary about the music that came out of Laurel Canyon in California in the 60s and 70s. Jackson Browne was a part, and in between there was a concert where he covered some of these songs. Wonderful documentary, Echo in the Canyon, check it out. And anyway, our neighbor tonight is doing music of Laurel Canyon in the 60s and 70s, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to go out and go to the florist and get some flowers and deliver them myself to the venue, so they will be in her dressing room. I'm sure she'll have lots of flowers, but I want her to have some from us. So let me taste this. Sorry, I don't have a big cafeteria spoon. It's good. It needs salt. Anybody would, even when I can tell it needs salt, it really needs salt. So I'm going to put maybe, oh, I don't know, that was probably, those are tiny pinches, maybe a half a teaspoon, I would guess, but I don't have to give you quantities. You know what to do with salt. Roy has gotten used to my low sodium cooking, and it tastes normal to him too, but I do have salt available if he wants to add any. Let me taste it one more time. That made all the difference in the world. So I'll finish up. I'll give you a picture of the chili. I'm going to let it cool and put it away. And then I'm also going to finish up with a picture on my front door of a new wreath I made of course inspired by darling Olivia at Olivia's Romantic Home. Here's a quick pop in just to show you how I prepared Roy's meat for smoking. He has 2 turkey thighs, and I thought that was a London broil, but it looks like a brisket. I don't know. It's some kind of roast. I won't eat this. I don't eat a lot of meat, and this is a wonderful week. I love it when he has this smoked meat, because then I can make just vegetables and salad and whatnot and put together complete meals. So the only thing I used is this mesquite rub. So he'll put it in the smoker. How long do you think he'll have this in the smoker?
Oh, let's say 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours.
4 to 5 hours.